Welcome to the Black Educated Tea Podcast. I'm your host, Makita Marie, and today's topic we're talking about self-care and loving yourself. But as always, before we get into the topic at hand, let's get into the tea before we get into the tea. So today I am drinking a simple chamomile tea. It is really relaxing, it's really flavorful, I really like it. And when I think of this particular tea, I think of sunflowers, I think of sun and just light and brightness. So I love this tea. Actually added a little honey to it because to me it's not as sweet as other teas, but it does have a lot of flavor to it. So that's what I'm drinking today. I'm drinking chamomile tea. I really like it. It's really relaxing. So definitely suggest that you try it. So I also wanted to point out what I'm wearing today. So I am feeling really sexy. Your girl bringing sexy back. So I'm feeling really sexy today. I'm really loving myself today. So I have on a dress. It's not revealing anything like that, but I really just like the dress. I saw it and wanted to purchase it. I love, even though my favorite color is brown, for some reason I've been gravitating toward black lately. So it's, of course, just a basic black dress, but I really just love it. It's helping me feel sexy today as I am embracing and loving myself. So let's go ahead and get into the topic here. We are talking about self-care and loving yourself. And self-care looks different for everybody. There is not one fits the mold when it comes to self-care. For some people, self-care is shopping or, going to get a manicure, pedicure. So self-care looks different for everyone. For me, my self-care is shopping. My self-care is reading books. My self-care is going for walks. I love going to the park. My self-care is making sure I spend time to myself as well as spending time with my family and friends. That is self-care for me. And I have so many things that resonate for me when it comes to self-care. It just goes on and on and on, the things that I just like to do that brings me fulfillment, that brings me joy, because that's really what self-care is. Self-care is all about bringing you joy. So it's something that you love to do that is bringing you joy, that is also relaxing at the same time. Anytime you're doing anything that's self-care, it should be relaxing, but you should get joy out of it. So for me, if I'm reading a book, especially at the park or something like that, that is really joyful for me because I'm doing something that I like to do and I'm getting joy in the process, but then it's relaxing. For me, I'm going shopping. It's just something therapeutic about going shopping. I love going shopping. It's really my thing. For some people, that may not be yours. The hectic crowds and just the going through clothes or shoes or whatever. Some people might not enjoy that. But for me, I love shopping. It's something I really like to do. It's therapeutic for me. May not be for everybody. Taking long drives used to be really self-care and therapeutic for me. As I got older, I don't want to drive far at all. If I drive like 3 hours, I'm like, okay, I'm good. Are we there? I'm like the kids, are we there yet? I used to could do 12, 13-hour drives, and I would just look at the scenery and just have my music going and just loving it. But now, your self-care can change as you get older, we'll say. So the things that you may have once liked to do as you get older, those self-care routines and things that bring you joy and relaxation, they may change, and that's totally fine. Because as you get older, as you change and as you grow, your self-care routines or things that, bring you joy, those things may change as well. And music has always been self-care for me. Even I can remember back to 5 years old. I grew up in a home where music was always played. My daddy, he had I think it was the record player and the big tall speakers. That was the thing back in the day. You had that. It was in like the glass case. If you had one of those, you was doing it back then. So there was always music going in my home, whether it was Stevie Wonder or Sade or Phil Collins or whatever the music was. We always had some type of music going in my home. So music has always been self-care and therapeutic for me. And for me, is if I'm in the car, I'm making sure I'm listening to the music I like to listen to. When I'm at work or if I'm walking, whatever I'm doing, I'm always finding ways to incorporate music into it. If I can, go to concerts, of course, because of COVID, we haven't been able to attend concerts like we may have wanted to, but I really like concerts. I'm really picky on when I do go to concerts. So make sure it's people I really want to see who are going to give me a good show, and I'm going to leave there feeling good and not feeling drained, because you can go to some concerts and feel really drained. So, but music is really self-care for me. It's really therapeutic. And sleep is another self-care routine that a lot of us really need to take in to stride and make sure you're getting a right amount of sleep, and that looks different for everybody. For me, 7 to 8 hours is good for me. If I sleep like 9 hours, I can actually wake up and feel kind of drained because I felt like I slept too long. Unless it's those days when I'm just really tired, or those days I'm not really feeling my best. So, you may need that additional sleep. But that looks different for everybody. Somebody may need that 9 hours of sleep to be able to get up and take their day on. For me, 7 to 8 hours is a good time for me where, I've gotten my sleep, I'm relaxed, I'm ready to take on the day. That looks different for everybody. But sleeping is also making sure you just get your rest. And whatever it looks like for you, but that is definitely a good self-care habit, a routine that we all must have. There are some things when it comes to self-care that I think we all just need to have. And I think that is definitely eating right. I think that is definitely your water intake. And I also think that is making sure that you sleep well. Those are just like the essential necessities when it comes to self-care. Everything else, when it comes to pedicures, manicures, and, getting your hair done, those things are definitely self-care. They're not as essential as making sure that you are eating right, getting your water, and getting your sleep. Those are the things that are really, important when it comes to self-care. Another thing for me lately, as of since COVID hit, that has been really, a self-care thing for me is journaling. I have boxes and boxes of journals. I became a journal addict. I mean, if I would go into the store and I would just see journals and see the covers, and I was like, man, I went ridiculous when it came to journals. I was purchasing any store I was in. If I saw a nice journal, there was only like, $5 or $6. Some could cost more or whatever, but I became a journal addict. And so I collected so many journals, but I wasn't using them at the time. So recently I'm like, okay, I have all these journals. What is my point of having all these journals if I'm not going to use them? The point of me buying these journals was to use them. So I'm finally getting to using all the wonderful journals that I have purchased, and I am enjoying just journaling, just writing, which is something that I used to like to do. And it's amazing how things, when you were a child or when you were younger, sometimes you forget about those things once you become an adult. So that is something that I'm picking up again. I used to love reading and writing as a kid. I was the one in the library checking out biographies and just reading books and just writing. That was something I enjoyed as a kid. Hit those teenage years and it kind of started decreasing. Once I became an adult, it is like it was non-existent at that point. So I am definitely writing more, journaling more, reading more as well. Because that has always been a self-care thing for me. And so I'm getting back into the habit of reading more. So I'm embracing that childhood thing that as time progresses, you get older, you forget about the childhood things that you really enjoy, that you really just love. So reading and writing, as stated, was really a childhood thing for me, besides going outside to play, of course. So I'm getting back into the habit of reading, and I'm not pushing myself too much when it comes to reading. Because I was being very unrealistic at first when I would get a book and I was like, okay, I can have this book done in a day or two, which is possible, but I'm like, I don't really just have the time to finish a book in a day or two. So it started being really realistic, and I was like, okay, I can do 1 to 2 chapters a day. Or even if I can do, depending on the length of the book, maybe 1 to 2 to 3 chapters a day. So give yourself a goal on that. Some people may be able to finish a book in a day or two. I just, with my busy schedule and things I have going, that's like, impossible to do. Because I really want to read the book and be able to enjoy it. I don't want to read it and I'm just trying to rush through it to say I've completed a book. So I'm doing 1 to 2 chapters a day or whatever. And sometimes it could be 3 chapters, depending on how long the chapters are. And I'm really loving it, because I'm taking in the book. That's my time that I'm relaxing. That's that time I'm participating in something that's self-care for me. So I'm really enjoying it. I'm getting back into the things that I've always loved to do. So that's one of them. Another self-care thing for me, which may not be for everybody, is just getting up once I get all of my healthy eating things out of the way, I make sure I get my coffee. So I don't even know if that's just a self-care thing or that's just something I like to do. But for some reason, if I don't have coffee in the morning, it's like my whole day is just kind of out of whack. Maybe that's just something I program in my mind or something I'm telling myself or whatever. But if I don't have my coffee in the morning, and I usually by 12 o'clock, I'm good on coffee. I don't need it after then. But it's just something about having that coffee in the morning in my hand, being able to drink it. It's like a self-care thing for me. It gets my day going or whatever. For some people, they might be like, yeah, I don't drink coffee, so I don't need coffee to get my day going or whatever. Some people, it could be water. Some people, it could be orange juice. For some people, it could be just whatever you're eating at the moment or whatever. So find out what works for you with your self-care in the morning, just to get your day going. For me, it's coffee. If I don't have my coffee, my day just seems like a bunch of blah at that point if I don't have my coffee. But I really want you all to find a self-care, I'm not going to say thing, find self-care things, because there's so many things that I know you enjoy to do, that you love to do, that brings you joy, because that's really all self-care is. And the thing is, when you start participating in all of these things that bring you self-care, you learn to love yourself. You learn to embrace yourself, because you start to find out the things you like, the things you don't like. You find out what brings you joy, what necessarily doesn't bring you joy. So you learn to know who you are as you start to go through your things you like for self-care. And that's what I have done. So with me, especially during COVID, so many things have just came out of COVID, whether good or bad. But so many things have just came out of COVID. And for me, I really just started to pay attention to my self-care things. And I even stopped doing some things that I thought were self-care that necessarily didn't benefit me. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't affect you in any kind of way. But I'm like, I can take this particular thing out that I thought was self-care and incorporate something that is self-care for me. So you can do that as well. Even if you have to write it down or, put it in your phone, in your notes, or just speak it or whatever. But really just start finding your self-care routines and things that bring you joy, peace, relaxation. And then you will start enjoying, embracing, and loving yourself. Because as I said, I'm bringing sexy back. I got my sexy dress on. I'm feeling myself today. And it's because I'm becoming more in tune with who I am. And it has a lot to do with I'm figuring out my self-care. You have to take care of yourself first. Self is most important before you can do or, do anything for anybody else. Self is most important. So find out what your self-care routines are. It looks different for everybody, But everybody, what you like and you know what you don't like. And that's the whole point of going through your self-care. And it is a journey. It is a journey just like with a lot of other things in your life. Because you have to find out what you like, what brings you that excitement, what brings you that relaxation, what brings you that peace. And for some people, it's travel. I love traveling as well. But it could be traveling to different places. The travel itself may not be self-care for me, but once I get to my destination, that is where the self-care starts. Just find out what really brings you joy, what will really help you become a better you, what will help you to embrace and love yourself even more. And I think it really starts with self-care. Finding out who you are, the things you like, the things you don't like. Those will continue to help you grow. And I'm still on this journey, just like as with any other journey. Continue to find things that will boost and improve my self-care, because that is what is most important. I can't be for anybody else if I'm not for myself. So please share. Let me know the things that you do when it comes to self-care, and how you have incorporated some things, and how you have just taken away some things that may no longer benefit you as you go along this progression for your self-care. So please, as always, like and subscribe. And this is the Black Educated Tea Podcast.